Let's get into it. Coach Colin here. Well, it did not take long for the attacks on RFK Jr. to start. Right away, they jump right in. RFK is like, hello, President Trump. They shake hands. He looks at the crowd. And then before he even leaves the stage, boom, RFK accused of being a drug dealer at Harvard University as former classmate speaks out. And let me guess, this former classmate underneath his blazer has a shirt that says "White Dudes for Kamala." I could only imagine. Absolutely ridiculous. The attacks on RFK are relentless, but boy did they choose a nice picture. I mean, come on now. Look at this guy. Look at this guy here. Head of hair on him. Let's go. And look at the guy. I wasn't wrong. I didn't even know this picture was here. This is the classmate that accused them. The guy looks like Rosie O'Donnell and Keith Olbermann. Why do all of the people who are these radical left people, why do they all look like Rosie O'Donnell and Keith Olbermann? What is going on? Is that part of Trump derangement syndrome? I'm sorry, man. Your husband is starting to look a little bit like Rosie O'Donnell. Oh, oh my God. I'm pretty sure this is Trump derangement syndrome. I apologize. He never used to wear glasses. That's part of it. That's part of it. Just know that when his hair turns blue, that means he only has a few weeks left. Oh my God. He said he wants communism in America. Oh, goodness. That means he has 1 week left. That is severe Trump derangement syndrome. Very interesting. This classmate is calling him out, saying, I think that RFK, who just endorsed Trump and Trump is a Nazi, I think RFK used to sell drugs. I'm just going to put that out there. I think he's a drug dealer. Absolutely amazing. Do we have any quotes here? Oh, beautiful. RFK Jr. poured out a line for me to sample and handed it to me an inch and a half. Hold on a second. This guy is trying to out RFK as being some kind of dealer, and he was the one buying it? Hey, buddy. Hey, come on. What's going on here? This is like decades-long entrapment here, buddy. You're a drug addict? You okay? You got bigger problems, bro. Absolutely hilarious. He poured out a line, blah, blah, blah. We chatted for a minute. I paid him $40 in cash. It was a lot of money back then, the equivalent of $300 today. Bro, do you see what I mean when I say that when it comes to Trump, all decency, all niceties, sympathy, it all gets thrown out the window? This guy is so set on making RFK look bad because of what he did that he's outing himself as somebody who used to do drugs. Like, what? Who's bad in this situation? I don't even understand. RFK is fine. I don't know, man. This is a very, very funny story. But this is not the worst of it, okay? Let me just pan right back to this gentleman. If you or any of your friends end up looking like this gentleman, please see your family doctor immediately. If you don't have one, walk-in clinic, emergency room even. They will play the national anthem for you a few times. Play the national anthem for you a few times, get you off the vegan diet that you are more than likely on, and you'll be right back to normal. Hopefully. But the real problem is that the mainstream media is actually taking shots at RFK right away. And this is odd because this was 2 weeks ago. And it's almost like, because the RFK campaign, they've been thinking about endorsing Trump for a while. This is not something that just popped out of nowhere in the past few days. they've been seeing the numbers. They've been seeing the writing on the wall for quite some time. So I feel like mainstream media got hold of this, because I started wondering, I'm like, why are all these smear pieces popping up about RFK? The guy has 5% of the vote, if that. Why would the mainstream have to go after him? Why would they care? Wouldn't they just want to set their sights on going after Trump? But now seeing that RFK actually made that endorsement, it makes perfect sense. Okay, I'm going to play a little bit of Jen Psaki. I'm sorry. It goes with the video, okay? Just roll with me on this. I will stop it less than a minute.
Maybe just keep your mouth shut. I mean, we already know this is a guy who has found himself in the middle, he's put himself in the middle, by the way, of some unusual controversies, to put it diplomatically. Like, say, the strange allegation that he once ate a dog, which he says was really a goat. Or, even more bizarre, the claim he made that a worm ate part of his brain. But incredibly, RFK Jr. has now found a way to one-up himself in all of those stories. In a video that was apparently intended to blunt the impact of a negative news story that had not yet come out, Kennedy casually recounts to Roseanne Barr, of all people, I can't explain it, a wildly bizarre incident that took place 10 years ago. The story goes like this. So one day, while driving to Goshen, New York for a fun day of falconing with his friends, I guess that's fun, as one does, he came across the carcass of a black bear cub, which he says was hit by a minivan ahead of him. So what did he decide to do? Well, I'm going to let him take it from here for a moment.
So I pulled over and I picked up the bear and put him in the back of my van because I was going to skin the bear, and it was very good condition, and I was going to put the meat in my refrigerator. And you can do that in New York State. You can get a bear tag for a roadkill bear.
He was going to skin the bear. Okay, anyway, the dead bear carcass is in his trunk. So he goes on to enjoy a day with the dead bear carcass in his trunk.
Now, I apologize for all that, Jen Psaki, okay? I do apologize, all right? I'll even take her off the screen. I'm sorry. It's something I had to do. But I just found it interesting. She's talking, he ate goat, and they're like, nah, it was a dog. You eat dogs. He had a bear cub, and there's covering this story. But let me tell you something about all of these accusations that you've heard this far. He's a Kennedy. Are you researched in the Kennedys at all? My friends, have you looked into JFK? I'm not saying he's a bad guy. He's not a bad guy, but they were wild boys. Listen, when you're a president and you're like, I'm going to get rid of the CIA, you're a wild boy. And your brother's right alongside you? What? And the mafia's like, you better do what we say. And they're both like, no. What are you going to do about it? It's like, what? They're warring with the CIA and the mafia at the same time? They're wild boys. So what do you expect from RFK Jr.? Of course he's going to see a bear cub and put it in his car. And he's going to want to skin it. But then he goes to a restaurant. He realizes, I've had the bear for too long. Throws it. Throws it in a bike lane or something like that. He wanted to make it look like a car hit it because he thought it would be funny. Of course that's what you do when you're a Kennedy. You're a wild boy. Look at him now. He's running for president. Like, what? He's endorsing Donald Trump. He's a wild boy. It's okay. This is fine. This is how the real Kennedys act. That's why I say he's the last great Kennedy. That's what you do as a Kennedy. Throw a bear out there. The police and everybody are trying to figure it out. And he's already on a plane somewhere. That's Kennedy behavior. That's how they do it. Come on, man. These guys, listen, you got to take the good with the bad with some people, you know? You ever have that one friend who's always willing to fight for you? And he'll fight for you at the drop of a hat. He'll go to war with anyone for you. But also, he's wild. It's like, yeah, you get both. That's how it is. That's why Donald Trump walks up to China and says, hey, give me the money you owe me. He walks up to the people in the UN, NATO, walks up, hey, I think there's some people in this room that owe me billions of dollars. Can I get my billions of dollars? It's good for America, but guess what? He's going to get on Twitter and be like, hey, you're a moron. He's going to do that. You got to take the good with the bad here, people. Right? Kamala Harris, admittedly, has a very nice smile. She does. She has a nice smile, but also she's a communist. You got to take the good with the bad. Oh, man. You got to take the good with the bad, right? You know? She likes jazz, okay? But she washes food in her bathtub. You know? It's the way it goes. And she's black now, you know? Used to be Indian. You gotta take the good with the bad. I'm kidding. I was too far. But listen, this is even worse than what I was just about to say, okay? This is his sister. RFK, this is why I say he's the last great Kennedy. This lady, and if RFK ever sees this, no disrespect, sir, but this lady, his sister, has zero integrity. Absolutely zero integrity. I have her at ABC. I have her, again, I apologize, Jen Psaki. I have her at MSNBC, and I have her at CNN. All saying the same thing, reading off of a script denouncing Robert F. Kennedy. It is gross. Check this out.
The statement we heard, you called this a betrayal.
Yeah, first of all, the stakes in November couldn't be higher, which is exactly why almost my whole family is fighting so hard to reelect Kamala Harris and Coach Waltz, and who have been champions of the values that my family has fought for years. And Donald Trump is the polar opposite. Were he alive today, I think the real Robert Kennedy would have detested almost everything Donald Trump represents: his lying, his selfishness, his rage, his cynicism, his hatred, his racism, his fascist sympathies, deliberate misinformation about vaccines, criminal felony convictions, his contempt for the poor and the suffering in America and around the world. And so I just am outraged and disgusted by my brother's actions. I think it's
Look at that. Clearly reading off something. Clearly. Eyes are going back and forth. She doesn't have teleprompter experience like, all these mainstream talking head people. She has none of that experience. She's clearly reading something. And I know you see it one time and you're like, what do you mean? You don't know that she's reading something. Let's go for take two.
Imagine it was pretty painful to have to do, but why do you feel so compelled to speak out at this moment?
I think this is really the stakes this November couldn't be higher, which is exactly why my whole family will be fighting so hard to reelect Kamala Harris and Coach Waltz, who've been champions for the values that my family has fought for years. Donald Trump is the polar opposite. He's a threat to the most basic freedoms that are core to who we are as Americans: the right for women to control our bodies, the right to live in communities safe from gun violence, to love who you love. And I think if my dad were alive today, the real Robert Kennedy would have detested almost everything Donald Trump represents: his lying, his selfishness, his rage, his cynicism, hatred, racism, fascist sympathies, deliberate misinformation about vaccines, criminal felony convictions, data.
Clearly, once again, looking down, clearly reading something, saying the exact same thing. I mean, it's like she's a part of Project Mockingbird. And going on all the mainstream media outlets to say this about her own brother. Less than 24 hours. Oh, even with Caitlyn Collins. Oh my God. Have you no shame, Miss Kennedy, to be there with Caitlyn Collins? Good Lord. Absolutely ridiculous. Let me play this one. Same thing again.
You here tonight. You responded to this earlier. You said that this was a betrayal of your father's legacy. Why do you think so?
Well, I think, if my father were alive today, he would detest almost everything Donald Trump represents. His lying, his selfishness, his rage, his cynicism, his hatred, his racism, his fascist sympathies, his deliberate misinformation about vaccines, his criminal felony convictions, his contempt for the poor and suffering, for ethics, for democracy, and for healing, and his cruel sneering at human rights for suffering people in America and around the world, which is the cause that so moved and motivated my father.
Man, this is sad to see. Now, CNN did the smart thing. This is what you're actually supposed to do. If somebody is not good at reading teleprompter, this is actually a thing. I've had to do this for people as well. If they're not good at reading a script while they're looking at the camera, you cut away to a smaller image of them and you give the people something else to look at, as they've done right here, fireworks, all that stuff. And it takes away, so you're just listening to them talk and you're watching the other thing. That's what you're supposed to do. And again, even I've had to do that with people I've worked with over the years. But again, back to the actual point. This lady and her integrity is just minimal. Oh, they actually did do the same thing, ABC. They cut away just to make her a little smaller instead of having her on half the screen. Again, this is just a sad state of affairs, to just attack your own brother, to be so co-opted by your own brother. I mean, sorry, not by your own brother, but so co-opted that you attack your own brother, and to actually say that your father, JFK, would detest Donald Trump, would be against what your brother's doing, is such nonsense. And it's borderline evil. It's evil to use that name, that big name, Kennedy, RFK, JFK, as a talking point of downplaying Donald Trump, downplaying your own sibling. And then to say that Kamala Harris has the values of JFK and RFK, the Kennedys, is just crazy. She has the values of the Kennedys, which is her family, the Kennedys of today. The Kennedys of the past, which are the real great Kennedys that are making their name worth anything today, they would not detest Donald Trump, because they didn't do that. RFK has been a shining example of that, of what those men were like. He didn't bother attacking anybody. He would always talk about unity. He would always talk about the issues that were, and he is currently, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., talk about the issues that are actually pending on the American people, health, things of that nature. He's doing what they actually do, so they wouldn't be upset about Donald Trump. And also, they would understand. They're guys who stood up to the CIA and the mafia. They understood what happens. They wouldn't look at it and go, oh, well, that gentleman must have been a Nazi for someone to shoot at him. They wouldn't say that. They'd be like, oh, you've stood up to everybody and now they're shooting at you. I understand that completely. That's what they would say if they were alive today. If by chance they survived like Trump actually survived their attempts, they would understand 100% what's going on. It's just sad. It's sad to see. Sad to see the attacks happen so quickly. Sad to see that RFK, again, last great Kennedy, right? That the most acceptance he's receiving has been in the past 72 hours since he announced that he is endorsing Donald Trump and campaigning for Donald Trump to be president. That the Republican Party, the people, MAGA, have been so accepting of him, more than any Democrat at all. It's been crazy. They never accepted him for a minute, for a second. His family denounced him the second he announced he started running. Donald Trump has accepted RFK, a Republican president with a Republican base, has accepted Robert F. Kennedy Jr. more than the Democratic Party has ever done, more than his family has ever done. That's sad, very sad. Because let's face it, I mean, Trump even said it. If they had accepted him, right now we'd be talking about RFK Jr. versus Donald Trump. That's what we'd be talking about. Let's be honest. I'd still want to see Trump, but the Democrats are so set on, and it's not, I don't know, people in the background, the Pelosi, the Schumer, the Obamas, they're so set on just having somebody installed. That's what it looks like. I don't know, could be wrong. I could be wrong. They're so set on that they won't even take an actual viable candidate. This is what happened with Tulsi Gabbard. This is what's happening with RFK Jr. Every time there's someone who actually has integrity, who actually can win, they say, no, we have something else planned. Oh, we'll see what happens, folks. We'll see what happens. But again, if RFK ever sees this, I very much do apologize for talking about your sister like that, but she has no integrity. Zero integrity. Absolutely no integrity. To be doing this little media tour, saying the same things, saying the same things over and over again with all these talking heads is just terrible. Absolutely terrible. But anyways, guys, I just wanted to show you that the attacks are going to start. They've already started. There's multiple stories out about Robert F. Kennedy and how terrible he is. And there's only going to be more as time goes on. But you have to see past all that. I mean, how can his sister even talk about him like this after hearing the speech that he gave? If she even listened to it, how could you hear him say, I'm in a position where I could possibly save millions of children's lives? And then look at that and go, oh no, Kamala Harris is way better. Oh man, what he's doing is just so disgraceful. It's one of the most, besides Donald Trump raising his fist after he got shot, RFK Jr. saying what he said in that speech and dropping out of the race to concede to someone else who he knows will be better for America is one of the most noble things I in my lifetime have ever seen from a politician. I can't even think. Only Trump raising his fist, because Trump just could have ducked down and just been like, nobody shoot me, like, nobody shoot me again, and just move. He could have crawled. He could have crawled, and nobody would have hated on him for it. Just got shot, but he decided to stand up. RFK in that speech, Trump doing that, two of the most noble things ever. And for people right now, or his own family right now, to be looking down at him with disapproval is crazy, especially when you go look up JFK's only grandson. Oh my God. I mean, this guy is shirtless, doing weird TikTok videos. He's doing different voices. He's like, I'm an Italian. I don't like Donald Trump. He's a bad guy. This world is becoming far too unhinged. Anyways, guys, this is running a little long. Like, subscribe, turn on the notifications. Helps the channel tremendously. Other than that, I'm out.